Welcome to WP-Tonic episode 173. Today we've got Emily White in the house. Before we get into today's episode, I'd like to give major thanks to our sponsor, Liquid Web. And, Liquid Web, they've been around for many, many years. They've been well known as a managed hosting company with tons of options. But most recently, they've designed a managed WordPress offering that's perfect for mission-critical sites. So if you're running one of those mission-critical sites and you're looking for improved performance, maximized uptime, and incredible support, Liquid Web is the partner that you've been looking for. Now, every Liquid Web managed WordPress customer also has iThemes Sync integrated into their management portal. And what this means is you can update several sites with a single touch. So if you sign up today using the discount code WP-Tonic33, you'll get a 33% discount for the next 6 months on your managed WordPress hosting account. Visit liquidweb.com/WordPress to get started and use the coupon code WP-Tonic33. And with that, Emily, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
All right. So Emily White, I am here in San Antonio, Texas. I run Emily White Designs, which is a partnership between myself and developer Greg Young. I function as the designer and the project manager. And what we do is we specialize in custom WordPress websites, and we, within that, specialize in the Genesis framework. So we work with Genesis to design and develop those sites. Most of our clients are kind of large bloggers whose main source of income is their website, and they may have some goals or unique challenges that we try to help them, point them to solutions or create solutions to help them meet their business goals. We also work with professionals, some small businesses. We're actually just wrapping up a university site, which was a totally new thing for us. But yeah, that's kind of what we do. Greg and I have partnered for about the last 4 years, but I've been working with WordPress for probably about 7 to 8 years. So
very nice.
Yeah.
I also want to introduce my co-host, Jonathan Denwood. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, hi there, folks. I'm the founder of WP-Tonic. We're a maintenance service company that only deals with WordPress. We're your trusted partner, John, aren't we?
Definite. And I'm John Locke. My business is Lockdown Design, and I provide custom WordPress development and local SEO for blue-collar industries. One thing we always like to ask our guests, Emily, is, the origin of Emily White Designs. How did you first come to be designing and developing websites? How did that come about?
So I started kind of working with the web back in about 2007. I had just had my third child, so I have 3 daughters, and my youngest was just born. And I don't know, kind of looking, maybe not even looking for a business so much as just new hobby type of thing. And this was back in the earlier days of blogging, when it seems like every mom or family or individual was trying their hand at having a blog. So I did the same. I started sort of just a family blog to update our family about what we were doing. Our family scattered around the country. And then I wanted to go beyond just writing on the blog and figure out how do I, tinker with the look of the blog or change the header. And this was all back on Blogger at the time. And I found that I sort of had a knack for that. And I liked to get in there and figure out how code worked, or I got a copy of Photoshop and started playing around with learning that. And then it's really just sort of spread. I started doing the same for other friends, eventually took on my first paying client. And then I worked sort of in that blogger space for probably almost 3 years before I realized that there was this whole other, level that I could take this to. I had someone come to me and say, "Hey, do you work with WordPress?" And I said, "Sure I do," not really knowing what I was going to get into. First time ever working with, FTP or understanding how any of that worked, but jumped in. When I first moved to WordPress, I worked with the Thesis framework, and then after a bit found Genesis and have kind of stuck with that ever since. yeah, it just really grew organically, all sort of word of mouth. And it became a full-time enterprise for myself. So
Definitely. So you say, I mean, and what I noticed on your site too is you target like a lot of bloggers or people who rely on their website for their income, like it is like their main source of revenue. How did you find that market? Did you experiment with different targeting, like different people, or did that just sort of evolve?
yeah, it was really just sort of an organic process and really just sort of evolved. I've never really done any sort of active marketing of myself, aside from the typical kind of being involved, being a presence online, you know, networking with certain people. But it was really just sort of a matter of getting that first client who led to the next, who led to the next. One of the great things about working for bloggers, which is mostly what I do, is that they have these great internal networks. So all of my clients are part of mastermind groups or Facebook groups or, you know, their own readership, and they talk to one another. So when you can sort of make a name in a certain blogging niche, they will talk to their friends. And so like in the last few years, we've done a whole lot of work for sort of healthy living or healthy food bloggers, natural parenting, that sort of thing. And that really wasn't by any sort of design of mine, but just that they, you know, have referred me to their colleagues or their friends. And I found that they're a good group to work with. I've enjoyed kind of working in that space. So been fortunate that I haven't, you know, I sort of lucked into it, and it's been a good space for me, and I've been happy there. So
No, definitely. I mean, you do some great work. You know, one thing that really struck me about your site too is it just makes me so curious. Like, you know, you have always gotten just referrals from existing customers, because one thing that I didn't see on your site, maybe I just missed it, but there's no blog, and like a lot of people like have like a blog
yeah.
on there. So you know, what are your thoughts on content marketing and you know, thoughts on that and how it fits into your marketing?
So I think a blog can absolutely be one of your greatest tools for content marketing. Honestly, for myself, I haven't gotten to the point where I've needed that, and I work, you know, it's myself and it's Greg, and I haven't wanted to grow it beyond that. And like I mentioned, I have 3 kids. They have busy lives. I wanted to create for myself a business that I was happy with, that I could live with, that my family constraints could, you know, work within. So I think if I was wanting to create more of an agency or bring on other people, or we needed to generate more work, I would definitely want to explore that. So I will recommend that to everyone. It's advice that I haven't taken for myself. Honestly, it's just been a matter of not feeling like I have the time to really do what I would want with that. Not to say that I won't ever, you know, explore that or get to the point where I'll need that. But for now, you know, we're typically booked out several months in advance, and we're, you know, in fact, turning away work. So we've been fortunate at this point to not have to go and actively try to attract people or seek out jobs.
No, definitely, definitely. So, I mean, let's start with that. Like when it came to like, you know, kind of like growing your client base, did you ever like struggle at first, like just finding clients that, let's say like had, you know, the necessary budget to hire you, or did you just always like have like a sense of how to price your services?
So that's definitely been a process. And in the beginning, I will be the first to admit that I was not charging enough. And that's why I was so busy initially, is like, we were a great bargain. And it took me a while until I, you know, spoke with people who'd been doing this longer, or listened to their expertise, or, you know, hearing people on podcasts and stuff, realizing, you know, it's time to really like claim that, you know, I'm a professional and this is what I'm doing, and I can command those, you know, higher prices. And when I started to take myself more seriously and price my services accordingly, it was amazing the effect it had in weeding out sort of those bad prospects, or attracting those better clients. So that's definitely been a process. In the beginning, I would, allow myself to be taken advantage of. I would price my services too low. I was always busy, but that wasn't necessarily a good thing because, I was doing work at a price point that really wasn't fair to us. I think we've really grown with that. And I feel like we're in a good spot now. I don't have a problem turning someone away if their budget isn't right for me, because I know there are so many providers out there who are probably a better fit for what they need. Honestly, everyone doesn't need a custom WordPress website. And if someone comes to me and they really aren't a good fit for that, I'll tell them that. Like, this isn't a good investment for your business right now. Here's, I recommend you get set up with, a StudioPress site, or work with someone over here that can get you on just a basic theme or something. But we've sort of carved out this little niche for us that there are people who are looking for that. And I'd rather kind of wait for those folks to come along that we are a good fit for in that. So
when it comes to finding that sweet spot for your pricing, did you have to like kind of push up the price first, or like gradually, or did you just like kind of jump up all at once? And did you notice like a change in your client base? Did people start to drop off, or?
Yeah, it's definitely been incremental changes. I can't think of one, major jump. It would be just over the years, maybe a couple times a year, I would say, okay, I'm going to kind of adjust my starting at price and we'll see what happens. And I would always think, oh, this is it. I'll never get another inquiry. And that's never been the case, honestly. It's actually, I think, led to better quality inquiries and better quality clients in a lot of respects. I think there is something to it that when you take yourself seriously and present yourself as a professional, others get confidence in you and respect you even more for doing so. I think we've all seen that, where something is a little too cheap to believe and we don't feel as confident purchasing or hiring that person because it seems like too good of a bargain. We're not really sure what we're going to get from them from that. So yeah, I haven't hit that spot. Sometimes, you'll bump it and you'll see a little bit of a lull for a while, especially when people who are used to working with you, or maybe they told their friends, what your prices were, and then they come to you and, oh, you're a little higher now. So you may get a little bit of pushback initially, but I find that if you give it a little bit of time, it sort of adjusts again and those inquiries keep coming in. So
you hit on a great point there. Something you said is the clients that you have right now are going to refer people to you. But something that I've noticed too is they're usually right around the same caliber of client. And so when they come to you, they, might say, oh, your, rates are different now. Something I heard Jeffrey Zeldman say one time on his podcast was he had a big deal like that, and they passed on it, and they came back later, and they had doubled the price in between that time, and they asked about it, and he just said our rates had changed. And that's all that you need to say sometimes, because if people really want to work with you, they'll really want to work with you. When it comes to, customer service and like your process for, say, like onboarding and communicating with clients, what does that look like?
Do you mean once they've kind of become a client, or kind of scoping out, or?
Yeah, it was definitely, like, walk us through that. Like, how do you decide like who gets to be a client, and then what happens next?
Sure. So I really try to do as much as I can up front, so that the inquiries I get are already sort of pre-qualified. So a few things that I do with that is I try to present myself on my website, what it is that we offer. I do publish sort of a starts at price. I don't give a listing or a menu of services, but I say, hey, if you want to work with me, this is sort of where we're at. At this point, we're only doing custom sites. So if you're someone that wants me to install a theme for you and change the colors, that's not the kind of work that we're interested in right now. There's a whole lot of people that will help you with that, and I'll be happy to refer them out to you. So I try to be kind of clear about who we're right for. And my inquiry form on my site asks some of those questions. I want to make the person have to do some work initially. So it doesn't just say, what's your project? What's your budget? When do you want to start? It goes into questions like, what are you hoping to accomplish by doing this? what are some measurable things that will tell us whether or not this project has been a success? So they need to kind of be clear in their minds about what it is that they're wanting to accomplish here, so that I can be clear whether or not this is a project that I feel like I'll be able to deliver value on. If their goals don't really match what I feel like I'll be able to deliver, I'm not a good fit for them. So by making them do some work initially, it sort of helps to weed out some of those maybe less than stellar, inquiries, or people that just aren't a good fit for me. If I get the inquiry and everything looks great and they seem like, yeah, this is a solid prospect, then my next step would be a phone call with them. I always do a phone call, probably at least an hour-long phone call. And I do this unpaid because most clients that get to this step with me will sign. Budget is not a problem anymore. We've worked out the time frame is not a problem. They have clear measurable goals, and they're clear on what it is I can offer. So this is sort of just a phone call to see if we like each other, we're going to work well together. They don't present any other red flags to me that make me concerned, that type of thing. So we'll spend some time on the call, and we don't get into specifics there. It's more high level. What are we wanting to accomplish here? Making sure that I'm clear on the scope of the project and the requirements of the project. And then after the phone call, if we both feel good about it, then I'll go through and do a formal proposal for them. So I'd use the Proposify software to do my proposals. I really like them. And do a nice write-up that contains the contract within the proposal, and they can review that. And if they sign off, then they're a client. I do 50% at signing, and then they get booked in my calendar. And then I have some other steps. Typically, there's a little bit of a delay from when someone signs to when they start with me, a couple months usually. So I'll typically start up a base camp with them, give them some items to be working on in the interim, so that when I'm available, we can jump right into the project together. So.
No, definitely. That's great information. One thing that you mentioned too is you have a partner that does the development, and you just do the design and project management. How did that evolve? And how did you find that partner? And did you go through a process where you maybe worked with other people but it didn't work out, or how did that come about?
Yeah. So as I mentioned initially, when I first came over to WordPress, I was kind of trying my hand at both design and development. I was not doing custom stuff. It was more of, getting people set up with a theme, doing some light customizations. And that was sort of I had sort of tapped out at my development skills. I realized I could have, learned a lot more and educated myself and become a much more skilled developer. But I just found that that's not really where my interests lied. I really was more drawn to the design and the problem solving end of things, as far as working with clients and coming up with strategy. And I would imagine these great solutions for them, but I just wasn't equipped to deliver those things. So I sort of felt like I had hit a wall. And within that, I'd capped out at a price point that I really couldn't exceed, because I was not able to offer people, things beyond that. So I had another friend. She was also kind of in the same boat as me, sort of a designer, quasi-developer. And she said, hey, I'm going to try my hand at hiring a developer, subbing out development on something on my next project. And she found Greg, I think through like Odesk or something, just some random, thing, and hired him on a project. And she thought it went well. And she said, I think, this is kind of the way to go. I think, you should try it. And so on my next project, I had signed with sort of a larger blogger. She had a pretty good, she was pretty visible and had a really good readership. And I thought, okay, this is the project. This is the one where I want to, make a splash. So I contacted Greg and subbed out development on that project to him. And initially, it's a hit, because a large portion of, your profits are going to have to go to pay for development, which I wasn't used to. But you're able to charge a lot more for that project, because you're able to deliver things that I would not have been able to deliver on my own. So I tried him on that first project, and honestly, that was it. I have never gone back to doing my own development. Initially, Greg was working for a lot of other designers as well, just sort of offering his services. But as my business grew and I was able to command higher prices and these larger jobs, we've gotten to a point where he's pretty much solely works with me now, which is nice. I know that he's always there and I can rely on him for development on those projects. I did try, a couple other developers came to me for design. So I have worked with a couple other developers, which it wasn't a bad situation. But it's just been great working with the same person, working with Greg. It's become almost where we have a shorthand between us. With my designs, I don't have to be, quite as complete or quite as, because he's so used to the way I work and sort of, knows what it is that I'm wanting to do here. And he can sort of, I don't know. It's just nice when you work with the same person on enough jobs. You don't have to kind of learn each other's languages again with every project. So it's worked out really, really well. I've just been fortunate. I know that a lot of other designers have tried partnering with developers. I think so much of it is just finding that right personality match and that right person that you work really well with. So.
Absolutely. One last thing I want to ask you before we go to our mid-show break is you talked about when you initially partnered up with Greg, you had to budget more for developmental, but part of that is what allowed you to raise your rates. What is the difference in perception between a solo freelancer and someone who has a team, even if it's 2 or 3 people?
I think there is a perception that you're somehow more, legit when you do have that. I feel like I can say, that we're sort of a small agency, but there does seem to be some sort of weight when you have people within your team who are specialized. I can say, I think it gives the clients confidence that, hey, I've got a designer and I have a developer. And that's not to say that some people can't do both. There are, those rare people that are awesome at both. But I think it's great when you can kind of do more by doing less. So focusing down on what it is that you're really great at, and then bringing people onto your team that can provide those really specialty services or whatever on the project. I think that does provide a lot of value. And the way that I handle it is that they are never offloaded onto Greg. It's all done sort of under my umbrella. I'm their point of contact and communication pretty much throughout most of the projects. Sometimes Greg will communicate directly with them in the active development phase, but it's nice too. They don't feel like they're being outsourced or handed off to someone who isn't an invested, partner in this from the beginning. So I really sort of hold their hand throughout the whole process, which I think gives them a lot of, a surety that that the project's staying on track as well.
Excellent. We're going to head to our break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking more with Emily White of Emily White Designs. See you after the break. We're coming back from the break, and we're talking with Emily White of Emily White Designs. One more question before I hand it over to Jonathan. When it comes to finding a partner like that, say what we were talking about just a second ago is with Greg, he works under your umbrella. You're the point of contact for the client. Does that reassure clients more than say if you were just a designer or a small design agency and you're contracting out to people that the client never meets?
I think so. In the other circumstances I talked about where I had worked with other developers, that was done in more of the situation where they had contracted with a developer for just the development part of the project. And then he said, hey, here's a list of some designers I recommend. Go get your design, and kind of bring that back to me. And the project was really, I felt, just sort of divided. I felt like I didn't really know what they had discussed as far as development. He wasn't quite sure what we were going to deliver as far as design. And I just felt like there was this kind of gap in communication between the two sides. And I did see some frustration from the client's end. Not really, because clients sometimes don't understand where's the overlap between design and development. And who should I be talking to about this problem or this issue, and how is this going to impact, you know, they're paying the developer, you know, something on this side, and then they're paying you on this side. And I just think when you can keep it as one sort of large project where both sides are communicating and both are sort of on board from the beginning, it does help to have a really sort of cohesive, good experience for the client. That's been my experience.
Oh, great. Jonathan.
Oh, hi there, Emily.
Hello.
So you said that you're recently you've been working with a university. So that sounded a slightly different type of client. So how did you get that client, and what's the process been like compared to some of your previous clients?
Yeah, so I like to say that you should really kind of define your ideal client and that you'll be successful when you work with that type of client. But saying that, I think you do need to open yourself up to taking some risks or trying some things that are a little different. So when this came along, this was really just a referral from another developer. They got the inquiry and it wasn't a good fit for them. So they said, hey, you know, check out Emily White Designs. And after talking with the director of marketing at the university, who was in charge of hiring and this project, he actually was drawn to the fact that we were a small team. They had worked with larger agencies in the past, and he actually liked the idea that, you know, me, the one that's going to be talking to him about this project, is the same person that's going to be doing design. And then we brought Greg on early on so he could, you know, get to know him and knew who would be doing development. And so I think in our case, they were actually sort of attracted to that idea. It's a smaller private university, a small private graduate university. So the scope was much larger than what we had been used to, but was not overwhelming. And in kind of understanding their needs, Greg and I realized, you know, while the scope is bigger, what they really need is not all that complicated. And it's stuff that we felt confident that we could deliver on. But it was definitely a learning process. I think with a project of that size and scope, it's so hard to anticipate all of the things that are going to come along. So every part of my process was just a little bit different, a little bit more learning, some trial and error. But they've been really great to work with throughout that process. We're kind of at the point now where they're finishing up adding content and stuff to the site, and then we'll roll that out. But I think we've had to be more flexible throughout this. We can't be as specific with, okay, here's exactly what we're delivering, because with a large site like this, a lot of times what they need doesn't get revealed until you're kind of knee deep in the process. So we've had to be sort of flexible, a little bit more with scope than I tend to be, while still not, you know, taking on or letting the scope get out of hand. So it's been a little bit of a process of what is included, what is going to be considered a phase 2 to this, that type of thing. So it's definitely been an interesting process. I don't know how ready we are to jump into another project like this right away, but I think we for sure have learned a ton on this, even things that will help our smaller projects as we go forward. So it's been a good experience.
Oh, sounds great. Just a challenge, but not extreme challenge.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it, I feel.
Yeah.
The design process, do you focus on mobile first and then desktop, or do you normally do desktop and then mobile?
I actually still typically do desktop and then mobile, although I feel like the mobile considerations is always in my mind, even as I approach desktop first. So as I'm sort of designing, I'm always considering what this is going to do on mobile. How is this piece going to work? How is this going to degrade? You know, that type of thing. Most of our clients are still sort of at that maybe 50-50 split with some of these bloggers. So we have had a few projects where they've said, you know, mobile is our most important consideration here. And so we've approached it that way. But by and large, I'm still kind of considering desktop with, I would say, a heavy emphasis on the mobile behavior and what we're planning to have happen there. So yeah.
That's great. So I'm only surmising this, and I might be totally wrong here. A lot of designers, small agencies, one of the major problems they face is content provision. Clients not providing content on agreed timeline, and there's various methodologies in dealing with that. But I just surmised that because you're dealing with bloggers, they already have a lot of content. Am I correct in that?
You are correct. For the most part, that is one of the good things is, you know, they have their content ready to go. There's always those pieces though, you know, additional content areas on the homepage, or perhaps a new page that we're doing for them where we do kind of need those pieces. But yeah, that's an issue we still run into. I've gotten better about sort of setting milestones for the client and saying, we will not move to this step until we have this type of thing. And, you know, I don't care if that means your project gets put on hold for a while. I always have multiple projects going at one time. So I will jump to someone else, and people know, like, if you hold us up and your project gets delayed for weeks or even months, because I have to move on to something else, that's kind of the risk you run by not being ready. I feel like most of these people, they have adequate kind of warning that they know that I'm going to need this stuff. And typically from when they sign to when we start, there's even a few months delay. So that's the kind of thing that I mentioned, that we'll start a base camp and I'll say, okay, here's your to-do items. Here's the things I'm going to need from you before, you know, I will start on design. And a lot of times content pieces are part of that. So if they don't have that stuff ready to go, a lot of times we'll just wait, and I'll move on to something else, and then we'll hop back with them when they're ready to go. Yeah, so I try to put the onus on them to get that stuff done. I'm in no hurry. If they're in a hurry, they'll get it done. So yeah.
Right. So basically, what benefit do you feel the blogger gets by having a totally custom design development job? In business terms, what benefits do you think they see, and what benefits do you value that you directly feel that you provide yourself and your team?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, most of these people are, this blog is their sole source of income, and a lot of them have sort of diversified their income with affiliate products, or they're selling books, or they have courses. So there are a lot of things kind of that are all part of their brand or all part of their business that need to be presented on this site. So a lot of them will find that they will have been using some sort of pre-made theme for a while, but they just sort of feel like they've hit some pain points where, hey, I'm launching this new course, but this theme doesn't really have a great way for me to, you know, present this in a, you know, to make this the feature of the homepage, or, you know, I'm doing more and more affiliate marketing or affiliate sales for these products, and there's just not a great way to integrate that into the site. So they kind of come to me with some of these challenges, like, here's where my business is at, here's where our goals are, we're trying to move in this direction. And what's great is when you're working with a custom design, we don't have to go and look for a theme that we think will work and plug this stuff in there. We can try to, like, kind of imagine the whole of their business, and then what I do is we'll order their priorities or their goals, and then make sure that the visual design of the website reflects those goals, so that people are seeing the things, and we're giving hierarchy and precedent to the things that will help them in their business. So for example, a lot of these bloggers do promote products, and then, you know, get affiliate income from these products. So we've been designing a lot of these sort of recommended resources, or shops, I put in quotes because it's not really a shop, but we use like advanced custom fields, and we'll create a shop for them where in the back end, all the blogger has to do is go in and put in the product title, a short sort of editorial description about why they use this product or what they love about it. They upload a photo, provide an affiliate link. But then on the front end, it's displayed in a really great sort of, you know, grid-based shop type layout. And they're loving those. Like, that's been a great tool for them to present these products or these things in a way that their readers are really attracted to and engaged with, but that maybe wasn't available to them, you know, in the theme that they were using. So that's maybe just one sort of example of something like a custom solution that we can kind of develop or design for them that helps kind of speak to their business goals. I think sometimes too, it just is a matter of they've reached a certain point where they want to differentiate themselves from the pack. So they want the full branding package. They want that custom look. They want something that doesn't look like everyone else in their little circle's website. So I think sometimes it can be not a vanity thing, but just maybe a status thing, or we've reached that level where we want that. So,
well, I wouldn't say it's vanity, you know, branding, you know, as a business is a differentializer, isn't it? So
for sure,
it can really benefit the bottom line, can't it?
yeah.
If it's done in the right way, and I'm sure it is with you as a partner.
It's interesting to ask them too after a few months, and we've gotten some actual, you know, numbers back, or, you know, page views are up by 30%, or my sales on this have increased. And I do ask those questions. I say, what kind of measurable results have you seen as a result of this new site? And I love hearing those things back and seeing, you know, what it's doing for them. So
yeah, that's great.
yeah.
So you utilized Genesis. Was you utilizing that before your developer came on board, and that's something with your developer you decided to stay with, and what benefits do you feel that you get by staying with the Genesis framework?
Yeah, so I was using Genesis myself, and then I think specifically was attracted to working with Greg because that was a framework that he had chosen to specialize in as well. I think there's a lot of value in obviously using WordPress. We're all huge fans of WordPress, so you've got that community, but then within that you've got this Genesis community, which I think is so great as far as you put yourself in a smaller pond then where you can really learn the framework well, but you also can work with people and network with people and see the awesome, you know, plugins or the code or what they're doing to Genesis, and then implement those things. So I'm a big fan of sort of getting into a smaller, you know, framework within WordPress, finding your community. We have found that Genesis has worked great on all of our projects. We haven't really come up against anything yet that we felt we haven't been able to accomplish with Genesis. And like I said, we've worked with some great plugin developers or people in the Genesis community that have helped us on certain projects or certain, you know, custom functionality or things that we've wanted to accomplish. So it's just great to kind of have that community and that group to work with.
Yeah, I think that was really well explained. You know, it's a well-respected framework. I'm neutral about it. I've used it, and other projects I haven't. But I think in the area that you're dealing with total custom design, it probably is a very quality tool to choose. So, what's the plans in the future? Are you happy staying at your level? I think you indicated that you are really. You seem to be in a really quite sweet spot professionally. Would that be right?
Yeah, I think I am happy at this level. I like that we're able to be selective about the types of projects that we take on. And I think, you know, we always want to continually push ourselves to learn new things or deliver better work. And then hopefully our prices will inch up there a little bit as we go. But yeah, at this point, no plans to really want to grow big or take on extra people or take over the world or anything at this point. We're pretty happy if I can, you know, keep steady, good, exciting work coming our way and keep myself and Greg busy, then I'm happy with that. So
if you could go back like 4 or 5 years and speak to Emily, be your own mentor, what would be the key bit of advice you would tell yourself?
That's hard because I feel like I am where I am because of the mistakes I made, right? Yeah. I mean, that's been the greatest teacher. I don't even know. I think the thing that I try to tell younger designers or people who are younger in their business is to really take themselves seriously, and that your clients will take you seriously. Treat your business like a business, treat yourself like a professional, and your clients will respond to that. I'm a huge fan of really great communication within a project. I feel like there are, especially nowadays, there are so many people that can design as well as you, develop as well as you, provide sometimes the same product you can provide, but they can't provide the experience that only you can provide. And that's what I hear repeatedly from my clients, is what a enjoyable experience this was working with me. And that's not always the experience they've had with other providers and stuff. So that's where your reputation is everything, and that's where you can really differentiate yourself from the pack, is by providing that quality experience for that client to really kind of set yourself apart from the rest. So
I feel it's fantastic. Got any finishing questions, John?
Yeah, just a finishing question. And we'll link this up in show notes too. You had a presentation. It was defining customers from heaven, not clients from hell, but clients from heaven. One of the things that really stands out to me from that is defining your ideal client and how hard that can actually be. Because I see so many, I think I actually suffer from it as well. And I need to define even more narrowly who it is I serve. But when it comes to defining your ideal client, what are some good steps that people should take?
Sure. So I think for me, my ideal client is not so much maybe what industry they're in or what it is that they're writing about. It's some of those qualities. So I would ask yourself questions like, maybe it doesn't matter so much what the content is, but do you prefer, like I do, working with someone whose website is their business? And I have found that I prefer that type of client because I feel like they are more invested in the success of the project than maybe someone who has a brick and mortar store and then they've got to get this website up. That's not my ideal client. I struggle with people who are not fully committed to a project. So for me, that's like one area where I can sort of measure them. What level of involvement do you want from your client? Or do you want your client to have a certain level of, tech knowledge or experience? I know some people love to train. They love to work with people who are new to WordPress, and they want to start with them from the beginning and train them and work with them. Me, not so much. I love working with a blogger who's already been successful, who's achieved a certain level of success, and then we can come in and push them to that next level. So for me, that's more my ideal client. What type of communication works best for you? I prefer, while I will talk on the phone and like talking on the phone, I love a client who can communicate well in writing and who can be organized with their thoughts. So that's something that I look for. With that inquiry form I put up, if someone gets that back to me and they have one sentence answers, to me, that's a red flag. This is not someone who is either willing to or can communicate well in writing. And that's going to be a little bit of a problem for me, throughout the course of this project, because I really like that. So I would kind of envision, think about your ideal project, and then think about what was it about that client that made you love that project? Was it that you were super excited about the subject you were working on, or was it the way the client communicated, or was it, and then kind of go from there. Obviously, I think there's just those baseline, is their budget right? Is their time frame reasonable? Those things will weed them out. But then you got to ask yourself those other questions to see if it's a project that you really are going to get excited about. So.
Great advice. One last question. Who else should we have on this show?
Let's see. So the friend that I referenced that initially led me to Greg, her name is Jenny Elliott. She has a site called The Blog Maven, and she runs courses actually for bloggers. She's a brilliant content marketer, strategist, and I think she would be an interesting guest to have on. She does some really cool stuff, and I've actually had a few of my clients that have gone through her process and worked with her, and they are ideal clients when they get to me. They are focused, they know who their audience is, they know what their messaging is, they know what, so if you struggle with content and that sort of thing, if you can get someone like Jenny to kind of help them crystallize what it is that they're even selling or offering. She's great. So yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Her name sounds familiar. So
Yeah.
we'll have to reach out to her.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that.
Uh-huh.
So Emily, how do we find you, listeners? How do they get a hold of you?
So my website, emilywhitedesigns.com, or I'm on Twitter at mwhitedesigns. That's EM and then White Designs. It's probably the best way to find me.
Very good. Jonathan, how do the people get a hold of you?
That's quite easy, folks. You can Twitter me at Jonathan Denwood. I'm pretty active there, aren't I, John? Reasonably active. Or you could email me. I do read my email. I won't get back to you straight away, but it'll be pretty quick. And that's at jonathan@wp-tonic.com.
Excellent. And you can find me at my website, which is lockdowndesign.com. You can follow me on Twitter, lockdown_, and go like my Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/lockdowndesign. For the WP-Tonic, we're saying peace out, and we'll see you on this Saturday. We're going to have an episode on planning for large-scale products, so you don't want to miss that. Go to WP-Tonic.com/blab, and you can sign up for to ask questions live. So there you go.
You can, can't you? Please join us. We love people joining us live on the Saturday show. You'll be able to ask the panel any question you like. Got a problem with WordPress, that they will attempt to give you a logical answer, won't we, John?
That's true. So tune in every Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard, 12 noon Eastern Standard. So there you go. For WP-Tonic, we're just saying peace out. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.